of the Torah is also used of Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, Aaron, and Moses. An analysis of the context in which it is found reveals that it is to be distinguished from death itself because the action follows the demise, follows death. It's not the same as burial in an ancestral grave, because it is employed of Abraham, Aaron, and Moses, none of whom was buried with his forefathers. It's also not identical with interment in general, because the report of burial follows this phrase, and the difference between the two is especially blatant in the case of Jacob, who is interred quite a while after being gathered to his kin. It seemed therefore that the existence of this idiom, just like to lie down with one's fathers, testifies to a belief that, despite his mortality and perishability, man possesses an immortal element that survives the loss of life. Death is looked upon as a transition to an afterlife where one is united with one's ancestors. This interpretation contradicts the widespread but erroneous view that such a notion is unknown in Israel until later times. So even in the Torah there are hints of an afterlife. And so
I don't even think that's a hint. It's just blatant.
Yeah, it's blatant. And what's interesting, this is in a conservative commentary. So this isn't orthodox.
This is free.
I switched to JPS when you were looking.
Boy.
But here, even in a conservative commentary, they're affirming.
Okay, you know what I was going to say? Okay, go ahead.
There is afterlife in Judaism. So a lot of conservative rabbis, Reform rabbis, will say, "Oh, Judaism doesn't believe in an afterlife." That's not true. I just showed you here in the Torah that Judaism does believe in an afterlife. Also, if you consult the Encyclopedia Judaica, which is a work of secular Jewish scholarship, consult the article on afterlife. The very first sentence is, Judaism has always affirmed a belief in the afterlife.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
When you were reading, I thought you were reading from the stone, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what you were reading wasn't exactly what I'm familiar with.
Right.
So I was like debating whether I should say, well, that's not, I learned it a different way.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why should I say it? It's all the same, right? And he's got a different source on it, and that's whatever. Now I see that you came with the Trafe source.
Yeah.
So now I'm not going to shut up.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. If the way I learned it is the proof is that if it didn't mean the afterlife, to gather to his kin would mean that he was buried next to his family was there, right?
Yeah.
He was buried next to his family, but we know that he wasn't because he just purchased this land, and the only person who was buried there, right?
Yeah.
Was his wife.
Yeah.
Right? So his kin is dead somewhere else. He wasn't buried with the rest of his family. So therefore, that must have a different interpretation. It must be that he went to go meet the rest of his family in the other side.
That's good. First petitionary prayer in the Bible comes in this parsha when Abraham's servant Eliezer prays for God's help when he's trying to nail down Rivka.
Wait, I'm sorry?
First petitionary prayer in the Bible comes in this parsha. So what's cool about it is that he doesn't pray for himself. So he prays on behalf of...
What conservatives say there's no afterlife? I've never heard that before.
Oh, well, there are plenty of conservative rabbis who don't believe in God. So if you don't believe in God, there's definitely no afterlife. So like Harold Schulweis wouldn't believe in the afterlife.
He's Reform, isn't he?
No, he's conservative.
Ugh. And he says...
Most conservative rabbis would affirm an afterlife, but a significant number, I would guess maybe 15%, 20%.
That's like a basic of Judaism, that there's an afterlife. That's just like basics. Okay.
And it's interesting, if you consult the Reform commentary by Gunther Plaut on this text, they just say, oh, this is just an idiomatic expression, it doesn't mean anything. So it's different, like the Orthodox and the conservative commentary will say this means afterlife. Consult the Reform commentary on this verse, commentary by Rabbi Gunther Plaut, will say, oh, this is just an idiomatic expression. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay, so go ahead. Back to what you were talking about.
So Ishmael and Isaac get along when they bury Abraham. So why can't we all just get along? The descendants of Abraham, of Yitzhak, and the descendants of Ishmael, Jews and Arabs side by side on my piano keyboard. Oh Lord.
And sing Kumbaya.
And sing Kumbaya. Oh, maybe not.
Rabbi Miller talks about that. Rabbi Victor Miller talks a lot about how Arabs have a lot. There's certain things that they do that are very holy. They're very good about achnasas orchim, about inviting guests, because they learned this from Avraham Avinu, from their father. You know, from Rabbi Victor Miller says you can't live in the house of Abraham your entire life, you know, and Sarah as your, you know, well, no, Sarah's not, but Abraham, and not be affected. And that's what the tradition is passed down to Ishmael, and Ishmael passed it down to his kids, and then the Arabs today, right? Yeah. That's why you see that they're very hospitable. Yeah. Okay, they're very hospitable, and this is something else they're going to be good. They're probably very good about respect for the dead, and you're going to see all this, you know. Yeah. But he says like this: you walk in with, like, you know, and some Arabs might take you in, you know, and they see you walking in a town, they're going to invite you in their house, they're going to feed you and feed you and feed you, and then they'll escort you out of the town, and then 1 mile later they'll kill you because it's business as normal.
You like watching yourself on 25-second delay here? So, how do you think Orthodox Jewish life can continue in America when there are so few positive Orthodox role models on television?
I hate the word Orthodox. Can we just obliterate that?
How can Torah life continue in America when there are so few Torah-observant role models on television?
How about this? Just get rid of TV. First of all, Fermis don't watch TV. They shouldn't be watching TV. Me and you know, we take a few liberties here, right? Yeah. But let's say like most Fermis don't watch TV. Yeah. And probably better that most Fermis should not watch TV, right? So we're not going to use TV to create our role models. We have built-in role models in the Torah world. We don't need TV for that. You know, our role models are Gedolim. You know? Right? Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, right? You know, like, those are our role models. For me, it was Rabbi Victor Miller, right? Yeah. For you, unfortunately, right now, it's some radio talk show host who doesn't keep Shabbos, and, you know, that's unfortunate. And that's your role model right now. And, you know, you go to bed, there's like this poster on the ceiling.
Dennis Prager.
Yeah. Was it Duke? That is the funniest part of the book. I have to admit that.
And I didn't even write it.
I know you didn't write it, but you put it in there. It was smart. I did laugh at that. I was like, oh my god! And this person was funny, and they nailed it.
They totally nailed it.
Who was that, by the way? Who did
Mike
that?
Albo.
Oh, that's that guy. It's the same guy. Yeah. So, you know, we do have built-in role models. You know, you didn't say this other thing I wanted you to bring up, because I saw it on the website. I was prepared for it.
Oh, what other thing?
You said when they came in, why did Yitzhak bring Rivka into Sarah's house?
Oh, yeah, isn't that, like,
why?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
Why?
Okay, there was a thing that Sarah used to light Shabbos candles on Fridays, right? Every Friday she lit the Shabbos candles. And the candles stayed lit all week. Like, they would just, you know, it was like, whatever. She lit them on Friday, and it lit up. They didn't have like lights, electronics back then. So the house was illuminated by her light, her candles that she lit on for Shabbos all week. And I guess they went out on Friday, and then she relit them for Shabbos. It was like, you know, it's like they worked on miracle things back then, right? They worked above normality. She died. The lights went out. That was it. You know, it's like you could light the candle and it would burn out, and there's no light in that place. You know, like the light, it was dark in her house. He brought Rivka into that house, right, into Sarah's house, right, to see what would happen. And what happened when she walked in? Do you know?
The lights came on.
Everything miraculously lit up. Those candles lit up on their own, and the place was illuminated, and right there Yitzhak knew two things. What did he know?
Cut down on the electricity bill if you married this woman.
And that's the third one. He knew that right away this is the perfect woman, and he knew right there that his mother was given the bracha, was given her bracha, and said, yeah, I'm happy with this woman too. That this is a good Jewish woman, because remember, from her all of Jewish people are going to come from. and only Jewish people are going to come from, right? You know that part, right?
Yeah.
Only Jewish people are going to